So this will be the Wednesday night, December 18th, 2024 Shutesbury Cemetery Commissioners meeting, officially starting at, I have 6:06 for a time.
Yep, got it. Thank you.
Come. So we do not have any other guests here at this time. So we can start with the agenda, which is review and approve the minutes of the November 20th, 2024 meeting. And has everybody had time to look through those?
I skimmed.
Okay, I did too. I'm pretty sure. That I didn't really see anything outrageous on there. See anything I missed? Oh, the only question was Susan had, should the cremation burial worksheet, the draft, should it include with the minutes or wait till the final? I think we'll, probably wait till the final because we're going to be discussing more on it tonight. So
I figured, but I thought I would check.
yeah, okay, yeah, good thing. But other than that, I think they're fine. So if
I'll move that we accept them as written.
okay, and I will second that. Any further discussion? All right, so hearing none, we'll do the roll call vote. Dina,
Aye.
Susan,
Aye,
and I'll vote aye also.
thank you.
You're welcome. It's so nice having good, accurate minutes that are easy
It
to
really
read.
is. I so appreciate it.
Let's see.
I like doing them. I shouldn't acknowledge that.
No, we won't tell anybody. Although you're being recorded now, so everybody knows. I think for new burials, lot sales, and monument installations, there has been nothing. Things this time of the year pretty much almost come to a grinding halt. Although, I mean, with the weather that we've been having and not a lot of frost, we still have the potential for doing burials. But there have been none. Again, no new lot sales. There have been people that have inquired. I've given them the process and they said, well, we'll wait till at least after Thanksgiving. I haven't heard back from them yet. So, but I've been getting better at getting back to people as soon as I can about that. All
I have
right.
a
Go ahead.
question
Sure.
about winter burials. Do you want to put that further down on the agenda instead of that right now?
I
Let's go to new
suppose.
business.
Yeah, it could be. All right. We can do it under new business or
Okay.
unfinished. Yeah. All right. Sure. So if nothing more on burials, lot sales, and monument installations, update on ground penetrating radar and the mapping project. As you may have seen, because I included all of you on it, I sent a fairly extensive email back to Tom Cunningham down in Texas from C&M Substrate about what I felt was quite lacking in the maps that he sent up, the draft maps. That there was really, one of them had lot numbers on it, but they didn't correspond to our lot numbers exactly. He just started what he thought was the lots and numbered them. And there was one that he joined two lots because they were adjoining and under the same name, but they were different lots on each side of the road. So, I sent back and said, well, first of all, we can't. Well, first of all, he was referring it to the south section as the new section, the old section, the new section. I said, we refer to it as the south section of the cemetery, not the new section. And then told him that he had those lot numbers that don't correspond to ours. And then the big thing was, and the important thing about mapping and why we were having it one thing done, because we knew there was some things that were off on the old maps, was distances. And that from the given baseline for the lots and the widths of the roads and the depths of the lots. I said, that's the important thing of why we were having it done. if we didn't have question about that, we wouldn't be having it mapped, in a sense. So he did email me back and said that he understands and he would take care of that. And he said he would also be free for a phone call tomorrow night. So it wasn't before our meeting, tomorrow night at 5:30 Central Time. So, an hour delay. So it'd be 6:30 here, should be. I got to double check that. So I am going to try calling him and just discuss with him and make sure that he understands exactly how and why we wanted stuff done. And, I didn't see anything on his maps that showed the baseline that is on our maps that all our measurements are taken from. I said, I don't, in my email, I said, I don't know if you captured that information and just didn't include it on the map, or you didn't capture it. If you didn't capture it, that's going to be a little bit harder to decide, but there is a couple lots that the baseline falls right on the division of a lot, so it starts right there. So that can be used kind of as a baseline. But I was really kind of disappointed in how much detail he had of some stuff, but how lacking there was in other things that were really important for us.
Yeah,
Because, when we have to measure out for a lot for placement, we have to have measurements against the maps. The maps are telling us where it is, and we're taking that, transferring it to the actual ground. And if the information is on the map, it's kind of hard to figure out where things are. So,
right.
or verify it. So I hopefully he will be able to add that information, because he had even said he was gathering more information than he thought we would really need, and then he could scale it back if necessary. But he obviously didn't put it on the map. So hopefully he will take care of that, and I'll find out more in our conversation tomorrow night, and I can update you guys.
Great.
Well, this is the first time he's done a cemetery. Is that true?
I think so.
No, he's done work in cemeteries, some cemeteries, but more down in Texas area. Because he did work with somebody else doing cemeteries down there. He used to do, I forget what he was doing it for like construction and things like that. But then he met somebody and got interested in cemeteries, and he was doing a few, but I don't know if he'd ever done many on his own. Um, and what he did was great. I mean, he showed where headstones were and footstones and all that, but there's no reference to anything. Yes, there's a scale on the map, but unless the map is printed out exactly what size he scaled it to,
Mm,
the scale doesn't really reference. And we don't want to sit there and scale everything. It's nice to
No,
have it right on the
it has
map.
to be at a glance.
You're right. Yeah, look down and say, okay, this lot, lot 162 is from the baseline, it's 152 feet to 100 and, 70 feet or whatever. That's what we need.
Right.
And to know, it's good knowing what the road widths are, because they have varied over the time. They were on the map, it says they're 9-foot roads, but there's some places even at the baseline that the road is 11 feet wide.
Right.
So, you start talking 2 feet here, 4 feet there, you can get off pretty quite a bit, and which is one of the reasons that I wanted this done, so we could verify what the measurements were on our maps. And so after I'm gone, somebody else isn't scratching their head and, walking away with a headache trying to figure out everything that's going on. So, I think that's all I had on that, unless anybody else has some questions or concerns about anything
No, I'm
with.
glad you're on top of it, though. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, I was, like I said, I had to say I was a bit disappointed when I first looked at it and said, well, this is really good, but no dimensions. And I know there's not going to be lots that on the old section in the front. They're just, graves as they go along. At least he's showing where the stones are. And, what I'm going to talk to him about is seeing these are PDFs. I'm hopefully that we can go back and type in names on each of these stones, so it's on the map too.
yes.
That would be really nice. That way
Yeah.
we could it would be there, and you don't have to try to match up things from, you know, over the years. And when I get into new business too, I got something I want to, let you know about that. I've been talking with this woman who's trying to search for her grandmother, and the troubles that she's having because of lack of, proper information, numbers being transposed from one, thing to a database to another, and all that. It's made her search pretty difficult. So I'm hoping to try to straighten ours out a little bit as much as we can, little by little. Um, so yeah, in that one, he did show where he had done the ground penetrating radar too, where all the bodies, were located. Those are show up with a, just like a rectangle with an X on those lots. So I guess, like I said, in the future, one of our things to do is see if we can find any information about who all those people are and how they got there without any names or any headstones or anything else. And that may be a mystery that we just don't know. But at least we know, unfortunately, that we can't use those lots. So I guess that was money well spent, but it would have been nice if it had a different result on that one.
So Walter, let me just ask this real quick.
Sure.
So if we're talking about these lots can contain potentially 8 graves, right? 8 plots.
Yep.
And if
Yep.
there's one or two burials and
Yep.
no evidence who owns the lot, could we not
Could we?
other plots?
I think, look, if we look, I have to look at them and see how they're laid out. Some of them were pretty full. Some of them were not so full. And I think if we could look at those and kind of discuss whether they have the potential to sell for like a half lot or something like that. I mean, some of them have like 7 and leave 1 open grave. I don't know how people would feel about that. Or maybe we do have the potential to sell like 1 lot. If somebody wants a single lot, well, we have a single one over here. Yeah, we could look at that. I'd have to, once he gets everything done, look at the maps and make sure that, or even the draft ones, we should be able to look at them and say, yeah, we have the potential for, however many sales. Yeah, I come to think of it, yeah, unless somebody can prove ownership of that or we know who it is, I don't see why we couldn't, sell, single plots or double plots if there is an opening there. It'd be just the same as if somebody bought 4 of the plots or 6 of the plots and left 2. It's no different, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
We may have a future when there's not much space in Shutesbury in West Cemetery.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. That's true. All right. So I will look at the maps again and try to figure out if there is a potential. So at our next meeting, we can talk about that.
Thank you.
Oh, you're
Yeah.
welcome. I'm gonna write that down. This. Okay, good. All right. Cremation burial worksheet and fee schedule. I was gonna go ahead and mark out like an 8 plot lot for the back of that sheet. I haven't done that yet, although I do have lots like, drawings like that made up on the computer already for when people have been kind of trying to figure out where things are on their lots, or when if I'm dealing with somebody from a distance and they say, I want to have my grandmother or my mother, whatever, buried there, and they're like, where on the lot? I'll send them a drawing or that and say, well, these are where people are now. Where on this lot, mark it, please, and send it back to me where you want them buried. And we could do the same thing on the back of that worksheet. And something, I was going to print that out because I think I made all the corrections, but what I'm going to do is pull that back up and we can see if I can share it. I'm going to find it first before I do that. Give me just a moment. Hmm. Okay. Well, why is it when you're looking for something in a hurry, you never see it?
It's
Well,
one of the,
They hide.
Hmm. Okay. Well, something right at the moment, I cannot find it. It should be readily available, but I'm not seeing it. So I apologize for that. That's the one thing I should have had ready. I believe that we made all the changes were in the minutes, were they not? That we had questions? Yeah, is there going to be a formal service? If so, where? Is there going to be a graveside service? Is there a plan to add a marker with an inscription on the stone? I think I did make all those changes. And just looking quickly, I can't find it. So I know it's in there somewhere. But one thing I did find out, I met with Gail yesterday, the accountant, and as we had questions on if we increase the fee schedule for cremational burials, can we split up that fee to use part of it to pay whoever digs the grave, the flat fee that we decide, and it can be a flat fee. It doesn't have to be broken down to an hour rate. As long as I just have to specify that it comes out of the revolving account, and that the money that's extra, say as an example, we increased it to $200, just to keep numbers even. And we still paid the person doing the burial, digging the grave, $100. That other $100 can be used for anything we need it for. The problem is it has to stay in the revolving account. We can't just transfer it immediately over to, say, the expendable trust fund. But what we can do is when there's enough money in there to make it worthwhile, at a town meeting, we can put in a warrant to have it transferred from the revolving account to the expendable trust fund. We could spend it out of the revolving account, possibly, but it would be, better to do it that way where we vote it to go to the expendable trust, and then we can use it from there. So I think as long as we keep our expendable trust fund, at a reasonable amount, we try not, when we try not to use it unless we have to for major purchases. I don't think it'll be a problem. But she said we could definitely divide it up that way. So that gives us the flexibility to do it. So if we do decide to increase, and that's one of the things we want to talk about is our fee schedule. Do we want to increase it? And if we do, how much? That money still can be used, whatever we decide can go towards the cemetery to be operating funds eventually through the expendable trust.
I think I understand that. What's the fee we're charging right now for?
Right now, we've been charging $100. And that's for the person, usually me, to, open the grave and close the grave.
Is it enough? Should it be more?
Um, I think it's usually enough. Usually there's not a lot of time. There was just that one, that last one that I did because of the lack of communication with the people that were doing it themselves, not running through any kind of director,
Right,
and they weren't very good with information, that it ended up being, most of the day it took.
right.
It tied up a lot of my day. Luckily, I didn't have too much other stuff going on, but it did tie up from like 8 o'clock in the morning till 2 in the afternoon. In that case, was $100 worth it? I don't know, but in most cases it is. If you've got the timing right, where I can get there, open up the grave, they do their service, and I, come back, and if I know in 2 hours I'm coming back and everything's going to be done, then I can go do something for a while and then come back and close the grave. And I think the $100 is worth it in that case.
So then my question is, um, if they want to put more cremated remains in the same, is that a lot or a plot? In the
That
same,
would be, it's a plot, I guess. Yeah.
right? But because,
Yeah.
so if they bought just one plot, but then
Yep.
come back and they'd like to put more cremated remains there, certainly there's room. Do
Oh,
we
absolutely.
charge them the same $100? I mean, were we just charging them $100 for opening, or are we charging them for the plot?
No, they have to have bought the plot. That's now $350. They buy
Okay,
the plot, and the $100 is just for the opening and closing of the actual cremated grave.
okay,
So yeah, at that
cool.
point, you can do many, you know, many cremational burials
Yeah,
in
that's
one
what,
plot. I
that's
mean, you could
what,
do probably easily 8, but like I said to people, it all depends on how you do your headstones. If you have a small stone for each person, it's going to depend on how big the stone is, how many you can put in there.
right,
If you do a small stone or one family stone with all the names on it, you could do between 4 and 8 easily.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm just, I just
Yeah.
wanted a little
Yeah.
clarification.
The $100 is for the opening and closing of the grave.
Cool. That I
Yeah.
think is appropriate, and I just wanted to make sure I was understanding.
Yeah. Susan.
Yeah, I can see that if we were paying people wages by the hour, then if
Hmm.
it's the kind of case that you had that went on all day, you'd obviously get reimbursed. But is there any kind of way with the flat fee? I mean, like a flat fee is for 2 hours of labor, but if it goes on longer than that, there would be an additional charge of $50 an hour, like that.
I mean, we could structure it however we want. Um, it's just always been, I mean, when I started doing it, I was charging like $50, and it was all the funeral directors are saying you're charging way too little. You should be $100. So I went up to 75 for a while, and they said, no, you should really be at least $100. People are getting a lot more than that. Like, all right, so I went up to $100, and
600.
so I was happy with it, but I'm not probably always going to be the person doing it. And at this time, Carl would be able to do it if he wanted to also. If
Right.
I was like away on vacation or something happened, like, I mean, I did one once, I think it was after I broke my leg, and a friend came over and helped me dig it, but and wouldn't take any money for it. But there are times where maybe physically I won't be able to do it.
Yeah.
or I'm just not on the cemetery commission anymore, that's whoever does it. Um, and even with Carl, and I confirmed this, even though he is being paid by the hour as a groundskeeper, and I could be too, now that yes, Susan, we did vote for that,
Okay.
at last town meeting, they approved the revolving fund for this purpose, and that I could work as a groundskeeper while also being on the cemetery commission.
Oh, great.
And I get the same rate that Carl is getting to do that work. Um, but because we're charging $100, usually that's, we play that as a flat fee, though, even though he's getting his hourly rate, if he were to do a cremational burial, he would get that flat rate, $100, of course, minus taxes, because it runs through the town and they will take the taxes out for the payroll. So it makes things more above board. Taxes are being paid on it. It's being declared. It's running through the town. It's accounted for. Where before it was not. And that is just the way it had been done forever. And that's the way I was, when I started doing this, oh, this is how we've always done it. Just, here, you get the money, take it. It's like, well, then it's up to me to be reporting it. And well, I try to be honest about that stuff. Sometimes you kind of go, now, when was that one? Was that this year or last year? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I cleared it with Gail that we can do it that way. So the thing is, if we wanted to raise our fee above $100, say $150 per burial, $100 would go to the person doing the opening and closing the grave, and $50 would go to the cemetery for use in maintaining the cemetery and doing whatever. Because I mean, we do buy the tools and the equipment to do those, the burials and all that. So we have outlaid money for it. It was something that we had talked about. Some of our last meetings. Should we raise the fee, and how could we use that money? So basically, we could do it however we wanted if we wanted to raise the fee.
Thanks for looking into this, Walter, and getting all this.
You're welcome. Well, I finally had some time off when Gail was around to actually sit down and talk with her about it. So,
Do you have a suggestion of what we might raise the fee to if we were going to raise it?
I really don't. I don't know what other people are getting for doing this. I mean, I think you said that you had heard that other places were getting a bit more money than that, or not?
Oh,
Yeah.
considerably more money. I mean,
Oh, really?
depending on the cemetery,
Right.
but we're way below market in all of our things, which I'm fine with. I mean,
Right.
you know, it's not like we have a lot of expenses with the cemetery and, um, or at least not outsized ones.
Right.
Um, and I don't see this as a cash cow for the town.
Oh, no, and it's not even a
Right.
cash out for us. It could be a little bit of extra money unless we charge an outrageous fee, but
Right.
I
No,
don't really, I don't really see doing that.
I think if we wanted to raise it to like 150, it wouldn't be untoward, but I'm not sure that we need to.
Okay. Yeah. I mean,
I'm really,
I'm opening up to everyone to get a general consensus. I mean, it's even if we say now at this point, we don't think we need to, it is always available to do it at a later point.
yeah. What do you think, Susan?
I don't have an opinion. I'm listening to what you folks.
I mean, I think personally, I think the $100 for a person doing the work is adequate, because most of the time it's about 2 hours worth of actual work.
Yeah.
And if we know what the schedule is, then you can do other things and all that. I mean, you can't go taking off on the road or anything, but you stick around town, but you can
Well,
go back home and mow your own lawn or whatever for an hour and a half and
and come
then head
back.
back over there. It was just, and I think the reason for the cremation burial worksheet is more so for those people that decide they want to do everything themselves and have never done it before and don't realize all the things that
That there are parts of,
their lack of planning affects how it affects other people too. So,
right, right. So I mean, I'm comfortable sort of leaving where it is, as long as you feel like it's fair compensation for the person doing the work. That's really
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's a little bit of hard work, but I've gotten used to it. It goes pretty easily. I've made it, learned how to do it, make it a little easier each time. And
Yeah,
I uh, obviously for me, $100 is fine for doing that.
okay.
I have to say that one of the things I just find out when I'm doing the annual report is how much work Walter does. I mean, he's got to work than most chairs do, and we're lucky that we don't have to pay him. I'm glad at least you're getting paid now for the groundskeeping work.
Yeah, I think it's
Right.
really,
Oh, and I will start putting it in. I did get that straightened out too when I was talking with Gail on how that all works. So, you know, I haven't put in for anything I've done so far this year because honestly, I wasn't, till I sat down and made sure I understood exactly how this was going to work with me, retired from the town, but then coming back to work and making sure that they still have, I can still do that and get paid and all that. And she explained everything, and it's actually a lot simpler than I thought it was going to be. So from this point on, I will keep track of my hours and put in for them. But to this point, I've been doing it for so many years without getting paid that it's like, all right, what's another 6 hours and another 8 hours? Let's get it straightened out first before I start putting him in. But
okay.
yeah, it will be nice to be able to recoup a little bit of that time.
Yeah, I think so.
Good.
Okay, so I really should have that cremation burial worksheet so we can look at it finally and vote on it. Or if you guys are okay with waiting till next month to do the final vote on that.
I'm okay.
We can do that because otherwise I'll probably spend way too much time looking for it in the hard drive.
Yeah.
And as soon as the meeting's over, I'll open it up and go, oh, there it is
Yay.
right there. But
There's no rush, Walter. There's no
yeah,
rush.
okay. Or I might have it saved on my computer and not to that because I was working on it. So, but yeah, as long as we understand, I will include on the backside an 8 plot lot, which I have. I think I still have that opened up. Let's see. Yeah, so let me just. All right. Sharing now. Okay, here we go. If I can figure out how to do this again. Share a document. Hmm. Yeah. All right. Search docs to share. Oh, look. I think I just found the cremation burial worksheet.
Yeah,
Yep, there it is. Look at that.
ta-da.
It's sitting there for shared documents. Can you guys see it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So we had name of the deceased, lot number or name, location on lot for interment, which we will use the drawing on the back for, the size of the urn or ash container, which is important to know, make sure the hole is large enough. Name of funeral director, should we put if any?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's see if I can just, all right.
Out of curiosity, how deep are you digging these holes?
Um, I go about 2.5 feet now. When I
Yeah,
first started, my worry was frost. And because I had heard from like Gary Dillman, if you didn't go deep enough, the frost might push the urn up.
right,
And he had ran into that problem once. So I started like with that going down like 4 feet. But the problem is nobody's arms are 4 feet long to lower an
right.
urn down in there. So it made it difficult. And I started going like around 3 feet, found that was still too deep. So I go about 2.5 feet now, which is you can, safely lower an urn down in there
Oh,
and not have to drop it in or anything. Um,
so much potential for awkward moments.
Oh, yeah. And to tell you the truth, I will not say what funeral director this was, but at one point I did a cremational burial where there was no family or anything there. It was just the gentleman from the funeral home coming out, and I had the hole all prepared, and he walked up, and it was in just like a little cardboard box,
He
and he
tossed.
walked up and he just tossed it in the hole.
Uh,
And and after he did it, he immediately realized how impersonal and disrespectful that was. And
yeah.
he immediately felt about a half inch tall, but he just did it without thinking. It was like, oh my God, I should not have done that. And I looked at him and said, no, not really. Um, so yeah, there's always a potential for awkward stuff. And definitely don't want if somebody's, especially if somebody has a a nice fancy. I've done like almost like Japanese or Chinese um ceramic
Yeah,
vases and things like
beautiful
that.
things.
And
Yeah.
you certainly do not want to drop those in there. No.
No, so do we have a question here? I'm just looking about about uh how are you planning if you're doing this yourself, how are you planning to lower the urn?
Um,
Only because I've stood graveside with people who hadn't ever considered how they were going to do that, and had forgotten to
well, it
have
is
the thing.
at down at the bottom. I say I have the question: will you want to lower the urn into the grave, or will you leave it up to the cemetery personnel?
That's good. And um
So that would at least give them thinking, well, if we want to do it, well, okay, how are you going to do it? You know?
we might we might prompt, please, if you're doing this yourself, please consider um what you might need for lowering.
Okay.
And for some people, most recently I had a guy who was happy to scoot forward on his tummy and lower
Yeah.
the urn into the ground. It wasn't a big deal for him. Um, but not everybody can do that.
No.
It was really sweet, actually. Oh,
We say how you will be lowering it or what you may need to do it.
yeah, please give some thought to what you may need to bring with you
Okay.
to lower the urn. Thank you. Oh,
Okay.
oh,
So I have a question, which links back to the conversations that Dina led about the toxicity of cremains.
Mm-hmm.
Do we need to say anything about the quality of the container so that it's the proper kind?
Well, that's only if it's in the green burial section,
burial
I believe.
section.
Okay,
Yeah.
you don't care about
I
toxicity,
mean,
big section?
well, I
So,
suppose we do, but we're putting
and
in cement, we're doing all kinds of things. And I've seen anywhere from a cardboard box to a plastic box to handmade wooden box urns to, metal to ceramic to one family that they had an actual cement vault for the urn.
yeah, that always freaks me out. They
Yeah.
made us do that with my mother-in-law in East
Wow.
River.
To tell you the
It,
truth, I had never heard of it till they said, because I was
it
going to dig the hole as normal. And then they said, well, yeah. Oh, by the way, we're going to be having
using a
the
vault.
urn in a cement vault. And I was like,
They
oh, really? Well, how big is that? Because
they
it meant digging a much bigger hole.
it's a bigger hole, but they
Wow.
made us bury with the vault, even though it was cremated remains in a ceramic in a ceramic urn.
Wow.
And so with a ceramic urn, there is no toxicity of the cremated remains
Right, because it's not going to leach in.
because
Right.
it's not going to leach. It's only where people don't want to use an urn that you have questions about toxicity with all that ash going into one concentrated place.
But do
Right.
we accept cremains in the natural section?
We
Do
could,
we? Yeah. I think, but Dina was talking about having it wrapped in like 3 layers
Yeah, I
of wool or
realized all of a sudden that, natural cremains are not exactly natural or green.
they
right.
are not exactly natural or green. And
No.
it is um it is uh a practice in some hybrid cemeteries that they allow cremated remain burials in certain types of containers. For instance, in a ceramic urn, there's not a question of toxicity.
Right.
So I don't want to say you can't. I mean, if you wanted to be cremated, but your partner wanted to be wanted a full body burial, and they died before you, but you wanted to join them, but in a cremation burial, are we saying that that can't happen in our green section?
I guess we're not.
No, no, we're not. Because if so, we've got to change our regulations because the
Yeah.
regulations do state that you can do up to, I think it only allowed 2 cremated remains on top of a green burial.
Well, maybe we should have a thing um where people are then either choosing an urn, so an urn that's made of ceramic, we're not expecting to change underground. Although I
Mhm.
suppose with freeze and thaw, it could crack
Right.
at some point. With a wooden urn, there's still some question of possible cracking, but more, I think, of it's just gonna degrade over time, which should be
Yeah.
fine. The prohibition with cremated remains in green burial settings is that if they go directly into soil, they're not friendly to the microbiome there. So you want to have them in something. If they're in something biodegradable, a number of layers of blanket weight wool seems to be sufficient to slow the leaching so that as um the they're very basic cremated remains, as the remains leach into the soil, it's not all at once, it's just slow,
Right. Okay.
so it's less of an assault.
Right. And I think we had talked about that, and what we probably should put on the agenda for next meeting or at some future meeting is to look at our green burial regulations and make necessary changes as, we've learned more about them and all that.
Yeah, and just to sort of tweak and make sure we're up to date with what we know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to suggest that, and thank you, Walter and Dina, for doing that.
Yeah.
So this is all really a part of that discussion, and I'm sorry that I'm not sorry I brought it up.
I'm
No,
not
that's
sorry you
fine.
brought it up at all. I think it's
No, yeah, we these things have to be brought up, and it kind of fits in with this because we're talking about cremational burials. So it's,
I think it's important. I also think that reviewing regulations regularly just to see is there anything we need to make an adjustment to. That's just being
right.
responsible.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right. So let's see, going back to this, we said name of funeral director, if any, if none, who is in charge?
That's such an important question.
Yeah, and we should have, contact information too. Let's see. All right.
Oh,
I'm not gonna copy all these details because I'm assuming they'll be on the
Yeah.
worksheet itself. Is that okay with everybody?
yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, date and time for burial. Is there going to be a formal service? Where and what time? How long is it expected to last? Is there going to be a graveside service? How long will it last? And we may want to put in, I was just thinking about, yeah, they may have the formal service somewhere else and then travel to Shutesbury, so it'd be, what is the travel time?
Oh, that is important for the person opening the grave to know.
Yep.
This is how I met the cemetery commissioners in Leiden.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was there for a cremated remains burial and a service with the family, and I stopped to say hello. I said, "Are you the folks who opened the grave?" And we ended up having a longer conversation. It turned out they were the cemetery commissioners.
Yeah. Let's see.
They
What's the
hung
travel
out.
time?
We took a little long for them, I think, but that was okay. They were
Whoops. Actually, let's see. I put this in the wrong place. This doesn't work like Word. Okay. Can I cut this? No. Okay. Yeah. Learn the hard way. Right. So is there going to be a graveside service? How long will it last? Will you want to lower the urn into the grave, or will you leave that up to the cemetery personnel? If you're doing this to yourself, please give some thought as to what you may need to lower the urn into the grave. Will you want to put any dirt into the grave, or will you leave that up to cemetery personnel? Will there be a separate marker? And I believe you also asked, oh, with an inscription on the stone. Sure what that was. I mean, the marker will have an inscription, right? Yeah. Okay.
Usually they do.
Yeah. Okay. Will there be a separate marker? All right. Okay. Or maybe a separate marker, or just an inscription on one of the stones. So, well, I think will there be a separate marker is close enough to put the proper punctuation in there. Okay. Any other questions that you can think of we should be asking or suggesting to them?
It's not a question, but I think it might be helpful to have a sentence or two of introduction at the top saying that these questions are to help you plan and to help the cemetery personnel have
Schedule and yeah.
when they're
Yeah, meet their needs.
Okay.
My winter upgrade is a heating pad for my feet. And it's been making me a much more cheerful person.
So you're talking about inside, not at a burial.
Yeah, no, exactly. Under my desk.
Mm.
Right now, my cozy toes.
Well, you have a dog, right? You can use the dog.
She does not provide that service.
Okay.
I used to have a cat that provided that service, but she died, and the other cats also don't provide that service. So I finally got myself a heating pad.
So Susan, you said the reason for these questions are to help you plan. Is that what it was?
Yes.
But I'm not saying it has to be the precise language, but just.
Yeah, but something of that nature, yeah.
Yeah.
The reason for these questions are to help you plan the services,
Yeah. Well, the events,
the event, okay,
because it's more than the services.
yeah. Events for the day,
Yeah.
the
Sure.
events for the day. And to
To help cemetery.
help cemetery personnel.
Know your,
Yeah, know
Coordinate
your-
to meet your needs or something.
yeah, me.
Makes sense to me.
Coordinate services to meet your needs,
Sure.
to help meet your needs. Let's go. If I can change, should be able to change the font on this. Well, if nothing more, we'll just make it bold for now.
Mm-hmm.
And italic.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. All right.
Thanks for thinking of that, Susan.
No problem.
Yeah,
think
hopefully
good.
now this saves this as is. Let's see. Save it to the cloud.
Actually, grammatically, I think we should say the reason for these questions is.
Yeah, you're right. There's the English teacher coming out.
Yeah.
The events, to it be then the events of the day or the events for the day?
I think either, actually.
Okay.
What do you think, Dina?
I think either also.
All right. Okay. Now, hopefully, I've never done this on this before, except for the last time. I think it did save it. So if I just close it, hopefully it'll save it as is. We'll see. All right. Wow. Well, that was good to get done.
Ta-da.
Anything else on that before we move on? See, we're almost an hour into our meeting. All right. Next is the CPA grant application. I did sign that and put it in the CPC box
Oh, thank you.
yesterday. So I did kind of forget that you put it up there at first, and when I was up there, Gabe went to grab something out of the box and she said, "Oh, I'll bring all your mail." Like, oh yeah, I forgot to sign that. So
Do Friday. Did it?
yeah,
Friday.
it's in their box as of yesterday, so
Woohoo.
we should be good. Was there anything else we need to discuss on that or not?
I think it was due last Friday, which
Oh,
was
last Friday.
15th.
Okay. Oh well, but weren't they accepting them a little late though? I think
Well, The late
because of the.
was late. They were originally due the 5th of December.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
Sorry,
I can
I should have
mail him and let him know that it's in the box.
contacted you to tell you that it was there.
Yeah, that's all right.
You were going to contact me to tell me that you'd signed it, and you didn't. So I should have.
Yeah. Well, that's all right. We it's there. I'll let them know that it's there. Hopefully they'll accept it a couple days late. I mean, they knew that we were applying, so.
Yep, I sent them I sent them the email version.
Right. Oh, okay.
Oh, they had that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
That should be fine.
and I sent
Okay.
it first. So they.
Okay.
Oh, I don't know that we need to do anything. The final application is due in early February.
Okay.
So I guess what I should do is work on the grant application and bring it into the January meeting.
Sure.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, because we do know well, what we should do, and that's right, seeing we're talking about that is, and we haven't voted officially on it yet, and we should probably do that now, is we had talked about taking the $2,000 that we did not of the money we were going to use of, I think, from the expendable trust fund for the ground penetrating radar and mapping project, because our anonymous donator paid the $5,000, fee to lock in, the contract and all that, the down payment, which was easier to do it that way than to try to figure everything out. We ended up we had allocated $2,000 that we don't need to use for it. So then we talked about using that as a match for the grant, the CPC grant, to finish up the repair of the headstones. So if somebody would like to make a motion that we approve the $2,000 that we did previously, or maybe I'll do it. I'll make a motion that we use the $2,000 previously allocated for the ground penetrating radar and mapping project that was not used to now be allocated to the CPA grant as a matching fund for the second half of the gravestone restoration. That's kind of wordy, but
Exactly, but it's certainly, it's our contribute, it's cemetery commission's contribution to the.
right. It's not matching funds, but it's cemetery contribution to the project. Okay.
Okay, I'll second that.
All right. Did I make that? You can kind of create that to sound right, Susan?
Sure.
Okay. All right. I know I got a little wordy there. I got started
That
saying
was
it. It's like,
good,
how do
I
I want to
liked
say
it.
this now? All right. All right. Is there any discussion on that? I mean, it was money that we were going to use anyways, and we might
And
as well
we
use it for
talked
another
about, yeah,
project.
this seems really straightforward to me.
Yeah. Okay.
But
Very
really,
good.
our use of the money, because we can think of it as the Friends of the Historical Commission, and they wanted to focus on.
Exactly.
All right. Say it again, Susan. You broke up on my computer anyways.
I don't think it's very appropriate because we can consider it historical Friends of the Historical Society, of the Historical Commission.
Yeah.
The Friends wanted it to be used for historical purposes, and this is very definitely historical purposes.
Yes.
Right. I think the $2,000 we're talking about, though, was allocated coming out of the expendable trust fund.
Yeah, but we can just think of it as that.
Yeah, I think of it as that. Yeah, we can move it back and forth. I mean, it's kind of all interchangeable in a sense. It was all allocated to basically the same historical preservation stuff. So, okay. All right.
A
So
billion here, a billion there. Pretty soon you're talking about real money.
I don't think I'll be able to be there, but
That's a joke at my house.
oh, okay.
Voted on.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, we'll do the roll call vote. So Dina,
Hi.
Susan,
Aye.
and I'll vote aye also. Now we can officially call it as allocated to that project.
Great, thank you.
Fantastic.
All right. Other unfinished business. Really, we might as well talk about it here because I didn't put it on the agenda, and it is unfinished business, is the annual report
Okay.
that Susan sent out. And, I went and printed it, and for some reason, everything in red didn't print. So I'm gonna have to go back and actually look at it on the screen. And there was a few questions that Susan, you had.
Sent you a later version today.
Yeah, I looked at the later version from today. I think that's the one I looked at, because there was things that were on the older one that weren't there, and there's some other things that were straightened out. So I'm gonna just go back to now. Let's see. No. Oh, it's not gonna let me do that. Or yeah, here we go. Just gotta open another window. There we go. Gmail. Oh. All right. I don't think I can, without saving this and all that, I don't think I can share it, but question that was, let's
I
see.
might be able to share it if you would let
Okay.
me share.
All right. Let me get back to the meeting. All right. Let's see. So host tools allow participants to share screen. Do you have it? Is it showing up that you can share or now or not? On the bottom toolbar?
I don't have that toolbar because I'm not, or if I have it, I can't find it.
Okay, let me see if I can.
Whoa, I don't,
I mean, I've got it on my computer if it's the document you sent this afternoon.
it is.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
have
got
it
it.
too, but I was just
See,
wondering that.
I don't see, I just see the normal toolbar.
Okay, it doesn't have a green box that says share.
Uh-uh.
If it has a little thing
Wait,
that says more,
I'm on my regular screen now? Okay.
if
So,
you go to the thing that says more, sometimes the share is there.
yep, I got to share it here.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, started sharing screen. There we go.
Well, that's just, I've gone up too far. It's there. Just hang on a sec.
There we go.
Oops. Whoops, what just happened?
I see it.
Going back to 5.
Yeah, I think when you got to bring it all the way to the top and then move your cursor off of that, and it might stay. There we
There.
go. Okay.
Most of this is basically, a lot of this is out of last year. Like the first 2 paragraphs are out of last year.
Right. Yeah, because it basically this is the annual report for FY 24, right? So, okay. All right. And I appreciate that little part in the cemetery activities, the first paragraph.
I hope I phrased it okay.
Yeah. And yeah, I'll go by what the information you pulled out for the number of headstones and all that, because honestly, I don't quite remember. But it sounds pretty close.
Yeah,
Or
well,
sounds right.
I checked the minutes. It was what I
Yep.
had.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay,
I think we pretty much
and
reported on all those.
I included the policy on markers on the graves of veterans.
Oh,
Yep. I did see that. That was good.
I just took it out of the minutes.
Yep. I think it was more just getting into the financial stuff that you had some questions.
Yeah, right. I mean, the financial stuff, you need to provide some information. This is a
Yep.
project, which I hope is all accurate on the,
As far as I could tell, reading through it seemed accurate as well as my brain will remember. All right. Yeah, the first wing where Doc Prune, a reporter from the Reminder, contacted the commission about a possible interview on ground penetrating radar. Did anything ever come of this? It really didn't. I called him back. I finally got a hold of him. We played phone tag for a while, and I think he thought it was something else. And when I explained what we were doing, he was like, "Well, yeah, I'll have to talk to my editor. I don't know if that's really something that we want to run or not, or if we have room for it." And it never came to fruition. So
okay. We could take that out maybe.
I'm gonna take the whole thing.
Yeah.
yeah, probably because if it didn't happen, nothing ended up happening. It would have been nice because it would have been nice advertisement about some of what we were doing. But all right, so the next question, yes, Walter did get permission at town meeting to be employed as a groundskeeper while commission chair. Yeah,
Okay, so I will just change the language here to say that you did.
right.
Okay,
Okay.
I want to say, got. Okay, good.
And then, yeah, the Y to a T.
Yep.
Do that on my
Oh,
phone. I got too many big fingers and I keep typing the wrong letters.
it happens to me all the time.
Okay, then I included the material when we had the trees cut down, because I thought that,
Right. And as for the large trees, um, the highway department was going to have a tree company do it,
oh,
and they did not.
oh,
What the highway department did do was cut down a lot of the larger brush and small trees along the stone wall behind the hearse house. They did probably about 2/3 of that run, and they didn't finish it up.
They're
okay,
having issues.
they cut down smaller trees and brush.
Right, but the four, well, see, at the time, I mean, Steve had, I don't know how long after that, had left the highway department, resigned from the highway department. Um,
So
Tree company do it was
maybe,
money that he had left.
maybe I should just take out this paragraph and just add a sentence in here.
Yeah, that, or leave it as additional maintenance that the highway department helped with removing some brush and small trees and chipping it up, something like that.
Highway department. Well, it's important probably to leave in that the
They oversee the town cemeteries.
yeah,
Yeah.
to how's that? Oops.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I don't know if we want to mention that they chipped all that brush too or not, but they cut it down. That's the main thing. And they have taken time where they've chipped stuff that Carl had cut too. So
I'm here. I just have to stick my head out the window for a second.
okay. Or you can just leave it. All right, chip the brush and other brush. Yeah, that's good. Uh, Carl had cut.
Yeah, I'm not a good typist, as you can see. And there's an extra period.
Period.
I am hearing heavy equipment beeping on my road.
Really?
Hill, which means, Walter, I'm guessing somebody stupidly, because we are having a mini mud season, pulled into the water runoff spot at the bottom of the road before the gauge trail, at the bottom
Yeah.
of the hill before the gauge trail, and and you sink up to your
Up the
ankles in that
axles.
mud. And that's I was like, what is that sound? It sounds familiar. Somebody's
Yeah.
definitely stuck.
Oh boy.
Sorry, I just these hunters.
It's an early mud season, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, it's really bizarro today. Anyway, sorry. I thought I heard something and I had to go stick my head out the window and see.
Should the revised regulations with indications of what is new be attached to the annual report? I don't know if that really needs to go in the annual report. It can be just mentioned that their, updated regulations are on the website.
Yep, yep.
Well, the new update of Zoom allows me to zoom in on documents that you're sharing
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
really?
on my own screen, which is really fantastic.
Wow.
I love that. Yeah, it's so different. This is fantastic.
Or should we say the Cemetery Commission's page on the town's website?
Oh, okay.
Because we don't have a website of our own, so.
No, I'm sorry. I've just gotten in the habit of talking about our website for this council on
Yeah.
aging, but he corrects me. Change that.
All right.
Okay.
Yep.
Looks good to me.
Okay, this
Yeah, I
already.
think it was good to put the whole thing about the Jewish community of Amherst Cemetery because people do get that confused.
Mhm.
So,
So yeah, so that people know that they have to contact them.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, this is where I don't know stuff.
Okay, so I went back and got the last expense report and I think I um coordinated that with the warrants. And so the cemetery wages for 2020 fiscal year 2024 was 4,571. We only spent 1,000, I have here 1,135. Maybe not. Were these from the year before? These numbers?
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I think we spent 1,135.01. I think that was, or something like that. It left a balance of $3,435.93.
wait a second. 3,000,
That doesn't balance out, but that's what it showed.
3,000 what? Sorry.
We have a balance of 3,000, had a balance of $3,435.93. That doesn't quite make sense. Unless I missed the number here.
93.
571 minus 34, 35. 1,135.07. That's what it was. It's not a one, it's a seven. Yeah, I wrote it. I was running out of space on my pad here. Expenses again were 1,631. We expended $1,512.72, leaving a balance of $118.28.
Okay. Second. Okay, what was the balance?
$118.28.
Man, we were really close to the wire there.
Eh,
So
I've gotten in a lot closer on different years and different things.
this is presumably 628, 24.
Yeah. Well, yeah, or close to there by 6:30. Yeah.
Okay, 30.
That's the end of the year, 6:30. Yeah.
Yeah,
End of the fiscal year.
okay. So it's
Uh,
trust,
okay. And the expendable trust fund started and ended at $11,764.99.
We,
And apparently in fiscal year 24, we didn't use anything out
wow,
of the expendable trust fund.
Yeah.
wow. Okay, so it's the same here.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And under the, oh, when you said, under the backpack leaf blower,
Yeah,
that we bought only out of our funds and it was $499.99.
okay, so it came from the town expense account?
Yep. Or the cemetery expense account. Yep.
Okay. Is that, is that money that comes from the town?
It does come from the town, but it's allocated to us. That's our guy up above allocated for other expenses was 1631. So
Okay.
part
And,
of the one part of the 1512.72 that was spent was the 499.99 for the leaf backpack leaf blower.
okay. And you gave us that figure, so I should have had put it in my minutes, but I'm not always good about money in my,
And well, the thing was, the year before we did buy the walk behind one. That was part of that was from our expenses, and part was from the expendable trust fund. That's probably why you had it broken down that way. Same as last year.
yeah. So tell me again what the cost of the, with 490,
$499.99. And it's a backpack leaf blower, not a backpack leaf blower.
oh,
No, no problem. Just I saw
Only
that.
one blower.
the blower, right.
Oh,
Okay, do we have a total for the smaller supplies and equipment?
It would just be whatever, well, we see the balance, because of the 1,512.72 that was spent, it would be that minus so
Okay,
1,572, what's it? 1,500 or 512, 1,512.72 minus the 499.99. So basically it's $1,012.73 was for, other equipment and maintenance and stuff.
I had an O2 in there, is that correct? 1202.73?
$1,012.73. So 1012.73.
Okay. Boy, thank you all. I mean, this is great. I don't remember being able to do this way last year. Proud, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. It's definitely being open and honest about what we're doing and what we spent and all that. So people probably not usually included in a lot of annual reports, but it's good.
Well, is there anything you want me to take out?
No, no, I think it's great.
it's
It's good.
good.
It's good for people to see that we're doing stuff.
Yeah, and what we're doing and
Hey,
they're trusting us with, so.
yeah, people say to me sometimes, geez, what does the cemetery commission do anyway?
Well, a lot of people don't know. There was people that were interested in it, and they said, "Well, come to some of our meetings." And we were trying to talk them into joining. And basically, after they sat in for a few months, it was getting time that I say, "Well, are either of you interested in joining? Because we're losing a couple members." And they were like, It's really interesting, but you guys do way more than we expected you to be doing, and I haven't got that much time. Thank you. No, don't want to be bothered." So it was interesting because they both, there and really interested. And actually, one of them was one of the former groundskeepers, and he was really interested in it, but then decided, no, it's that you guys do too much.
We did have a busy year.
Yeah, we have been doing a lot. It's, when you get people that are involved and want to do things, you get a lot done. So you keep busy. Um, was there any, well, let's finish with this before I get too far. So does anybody else see anything that I think it looks good.
I think it looks good too. I didn't,
Yeah.
nothing really stuck out for me.
Good.
I don't know if we need to vote on it, but we can take a vote to approve the annual report as written. So,
Okay.
Dina.
Is
That'd be,
that a motion? I'm
Oh
happy.
yeah, we got to make a motion first. You're right. So yeah, go ahead and
Uh,
make the motion.
if that was the motion, then I'll second it.
Okay. All right. I'll call it the motion. Then you seconded it. Any other discussion before we vote? Yeah. All right. We'll do the official roll call vote. Dina,
Aye.
Susan,
aye.
and I'll vote aye also. Looks
Thank
very good. Thank you.
Thanks for making us look so good, Susan.
We are good.
I think so.
Okay, now I guess I stop sharing.
Yep. There you go. Okay.
Where's,
That worked.
are you still out of the picture, Dina?
Oh, no, I'm back. I forgot that I was turned off that way. I'm here.
Okay.
I was only
Um,
off long enough to look out my window.
Oh, what was going on?
Yeah, I was fascinated. Oh, now the dog's gonna bark.
is it any other unfinished business before we get into a couple new things?
Not that I know of.
I don't have
Oh,
any.
okay. So new business. Dina, you had something you wanted to bring up
Yeah, I'm
first?
trying to remember what it was. If it comes back to me, I'll bring it up.
Okay. All
I
right.
could have
While
written
you're
it.
thinking,
It was a simple question. It wasn't a big deal.
okay. Well, I'll go on to what I had then, and then as you think of it, maybe this will help and bring it. I don't know. Um, I went by the cemetery yesterday morning. Hadn't been by and really paying attention in a little while, obviously, and then plus we had some snow and all that. And I noticed in the main lawn area there to the right of the hearse house, there was some significantly deep tire mark tracks in the lawn.
Hmm.
I went back after, stopped and went out with, the plate compactor, the pounder, and tried to minimize them, but I minimized them. That's about it. They were still pretty deep. And then I noticed there was a bunch of other tracks around there on the upper end, which they were just marks in the grass. They didn't really sink in that deep. Um, and I found out what probably caused that, but it really brought to my mind again that this seems to happen at least once a year, usually in the spring. Somebody pulls in and decides to do a U-turn over the grass and just destroys it. And as much as I hate having signs up, especially in an area like that, I think it might behoove us to, at least in the fall and the spring, put up signs that says, please do not drive on the grass or stay off the grass or something like that, because this gets costly
Yeah.
to have people keep doing that. And it's basically, as far as I'm concerned, laziness because they can drive up a few more feet and there's a turnaround in the road that they can turn around. They
Yeah.
don't have to go driving across the grass. I know some people have probably done it in the past and spun their tires on purpose. It's possible. But, it seems like once a year we have to go back and fix some of the lawn there. So, again, as much as I hate putting up signs, and maybe we can only we put them up just at certain times of the year because it's not so bad in the summertime when things are dry. But I think we need something that states that people should not drive on the grass.
Yeah,
Makes
Okay.
sense to me.
makes sense.
Okay. Do we want to simple say the simple signs that you can probably buy anywhere, keep off the grass? But we don't want just people to keep off. We just don't want them driving on the grass. So
Yeah,
please do not please do not drive on the grass.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, I'll have some signs made up or priced, and I'll come back with a price for having them made up, probably from Amherst Copy and Sign. And you know, then we can go ahead, because I mean, as long as the ground's frozen, we probably don't have to worry about it too much. But it would be nice to have them and get them up before springtime or by spring.
Which, mud season starts around here in February
Hey, yeah, mud season's right now, as a matter of fact, but
on the west.
on my road, it's
that was a
certainly,
kind of early one, an unexpected mud season. So, yeah, but I'll get them. But I think, not knowing what the price is, unless you guys want to say just go ahead and get them. Usually it's nice to have the price before we vote on them to go ahead and have them ordered. So I can call them and talk to them, have them, what we want, have them do up a proof and give us a price.
that
And
sounds
I
good.
think we need at least 3 of them for that area, one by the road and by the actual road, Leverett Road. And then probably at least one along the roadway into the cemetery, or maybe even 2 there. Hopefully one would be enough, so maybe 2 signs, one on Leverett Road and one on the driveway. That hopefully should do it. I mean, I don't want to pepper the place with signs, I really don't.
No, I mean, it seems like you have a sense of where people are causing this damage, and that's the place
Right.
to put the sign.
Yeah,
Unless it pushes the damage somewhere else, we'd just have to wait and see on that.
right. And if so, we can always get another sign, but the hope is we don't have to do that. 1 or 2 should be enough to say, hey, be reasonable, don't do this. So,
The slippery slope of signage.
yeah, yeah. And to tell you the truth, I after doing that, I was coming home. I saw one of the police officers go by, so I flashed my lights at him, but I think he just thought I was kind of saying hi. He didn't quite recognize my truck, so I spun around and came back, and he was heading down to the school. So I pulled into the schoolyard, and he was there, and I asked him, "Yeah, you got a minute I can talk?" He said, "Sure." So he came over, and I told him what I had found, and they were fairly significantly deep ruts, and obviously a truck that had dual wheels on the back.
Uh,
And he goes, "Oh, I think I know what it was." And during the Turkey Trot road race, they were
Oh,
using the highway department truck to try to string a banner across the road where
uh-huh.
they wanted the start finish line. And they couldn't do it there, so they ended up, because the truck was unstable where it was, they drove the truck down onto the lawn and raised the bed up there to put the banner across, which, here they are. And I've got to talk to Dave now about that and have him fix it in the spring. But I mean, here they are, they're responsible partially, we're under the cemetery. The cemetery is under the highway, and they're the ones that possibly made the damage. So if so, I will ask them to loam it and seed it for us, to fix that.
good.
But if not, we got to figure out maybe who did it. I don't know.
Added to their current comedy of errors.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Yep. And there's the thing is, there is 2 poles that are apparently across the road from each other that could be used, or something that the police officer said, but they wanted to have the start finish line right there. And I think in future we might need to talk to the library and say you can't do it there unless you find another way to put that banner across, because we
Yeah,
can't keep having damage done to the lawn.
no.
Simple as that. Oh well. All
I
right.
wonder if the library being closer to the cemetery will bring more people into the cemetery in a positive way.
It could.
It's
It
for,
very
just out of
could.
curiosity, and
Yeah,
nice open space and
it is. And a lot of
safe
people
for
do use it for
walking.
recreation and walking.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah,
a nice place.
it
We
is.
just want people to keep it a nice place. That's all.
So what we need to do is put a lot of graves in that space.
Well, I think if we were going to do that, I think we'd have to raise that space up, because it is a low spot and it
Oh,
is perpetually wet.
Oh,
Soggy, it's a soggy
I
spot.
mean, it is a spot that has been, was, on a plan that I saw that had some future plan of really using just about every space in the cemetery for graves. That was a potential space to be used. But I think before we do that, we would have to raise the grade of that to keep it from being,
yeah,
a swampy mess.
yeah. Oh,
Uh,
dear.
yeah, good, thank you.
Did you remember what you had,
Yeah, it
Gina?
doesn't matter.
Okay.
It wasn't like, it wasn't an urgent thing. It was just a thought that would be fun
Okay.
to talk about, but
All right.
we'll find a time.
All
We'll,
right. And last thing, just let you know, I kind of mentioned it a little earlier. I got a call from a woman yesterday. She is trying to find where her grandmother was buried. Now, she had at one time lived in Shutesbury, lived in other places. She was, think, living in Medford when she passed away. She passed away at the age of 70 in 1962. Now, the granddaughter has been able to track some of the stuff down, and on the death certificate, it states that she was buried in South Amherst, Massachusetts. So when she approached Amherst, and she's talked to them several times, they say, we have absolutely no record of this person being buried in our cemeteries. And then the person's name is Alice Ratcliffe. Now they said they even had a record of a family cat being buried on that plot. And as her grandfather stated, she was a member of the Haskell family somehow. So she was buried supposedly on a Haskell lot. And it says South Amherst, but Amherst says they don't have that person there. She's gone back and forth in a lot of different places trying to find this. And unfortunately, back then, as we know, records weren't always kept that well. Matter of fact, when some of them were transposed from handwritten records to some electronic records, she was looking for her grandmother on the state records buried in 1962, her death records, and there was no record of her even dying. It's because when somebody transposed it into one of the databases, they took it as 70 years old, but also wrote down that she died in 1970 instead of
Oh,
1962. So that really fouled things up quite a bit. So she contacted me to see if I have any idea if, or could find out if she was actually buried in Shutesbury. The problem is she does not have a headstone, but she was thought that she was buried in one of the Haskell lots. So, you know, I told her I'd do the best I can, but being that the death certificate says that she's buried in Amherst, and the problem with death certificates and even the transportation certificates and burial certificates, as they come to us, it's come to us for verification. And I fill it out that, say the person was buried in West Cemetery, and everybody has the address wrong too, which they have it as like 147, which is actually Kennerson's. It's actually 158. So I correct that and I put down what lot they were buried in. And now that we even divide them up by A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I'll put it like lot 72H, just as an example. But if that person was died in another town, it's like in this case, it was Medford, that burial certificate goes back to the town of Medford. It doesn't stay in the town of Shutesbury, which is really
Even though
confusing
the
about this.
burial was in Shutesbury, that's really
Even if
odd.
the burial was in Shutesbury, the burial permit goes back to the town that the person died in, was living in when they died.
Oh,
Same as the death certificate goes in the town that they died in. So I'm just learning all this because it's always been very confusing, even for me. And matter of
yeah.
fact, I have a few that I realized when I pulled records out of the fire station. I threw everything into a box, and some of the burial permits got down into the bottom of the box. So I've got to make an appointment with Grace and sit down and go through all this stuff because I even have a couple that ended up being for the JCA that Clark sent to us.
Right, I knew about those.
Right. So there's not a lot,
But
but there's a handful of them.
JCA also has not been filing their paperwork.
Yeah, and there's even we have some records. I went through the book the other day that we have, and there's some for the JCA that's in we have
Okay.
records of, and some of them have not the verification has never been filled out. Even some for us that I was like, it was in there, but I don't think they were buried here. I think it just never got sent back to the town that they were from. And so it's really kind of again, it gets back to records and when they were done and if the people followed through on them and all that. So I again am trying to take all these things and work them through to make sure that things get processed properly. And it was always kind of a mystery to me because nobody ever really explained it. But
Yeah. And I
I
think
did looking at the books and notes that were put in
towns have
there, I think from Leslie Bracebridge when she was doing it, and I actually talked to her too, and guided to, yes, that's the fact of the way it is. Even though like when a funeral home comes to us, the person's being buried in Shutesbury, they give us the permit. I sign it saying that the person has been interned here. This is where they go. Because they died in another town, that goes back to the other town. We don't supposedly keep that, but I am going to make a photocopy of those and put it in our records so we know in case somebody comes looking, yeah, here it is.
that makes a lot of sense to me. The other thing is, I mean, I'm assuming she went to the other Amherst cemeteries and then started with surrounding towns.
Yes, yes, she started with
I mean,
Amherst. Yep.
really, that is such an interesting problem.
Yeah. And unfortunately, like she said, her grandfather who told them, and she was just a little girl, what this was. And she does remember that she was supposedly buried on a Haskell lot, but there's Haskell lots in Amherst, and Belchertown, Shutesbury, and all over the place. It was a
Yeah,
big family. And he supposedly there was a Union soldier that was buried on the same plot. So that may help narrow it down a little bit, but I, I had quite a conversation with her again today because when she called, I was not near a place to write the stuff down. I had no pen, paper, or anything with me. I said, okay, I'm just going to go back to my truck, write this down. I got intercepted by somebody else and sidelined. And by the time I got back to the truck, I was like, I can't remember the person's name now. So I called her back today to make sure I got the name and the spelling right. And we ended up having like a 15, 20-minute conversation about the whole history of her trying to find her grandmother. So I guess it's not uncommon that these mistakes were made, but it really does make it hard for somebody to find out, where it is. And now I'm looking at going, yeah, well, we've got right now at least probably 85 burials in our cemetery that we have no idea who they are.
yeah.
And she may be one of them.
She may be. It's hard to tell.
In the Haskell lot or lots, how many do we have here? Yeah,
I'll have to look, but I know there's several of them. There's several of them that are Haskell, and some are Haskell Porter that she said. So, I haven't yet pulled out the map and started to figure out which ones, and then go there and look at who is actually buried on each of those. And that is something again that we talked about that um to do. And I think once I make all these, I'll make a bunch of blanks up for the plots, and it's just going to be a boots on the ground type project, and maybe we can get some volunteers to help it. Go to each grave lot and
And write down what
using
we
that
see there.
little sketch, write down,
Yeah,
who's where, or at least who's in that plot, so we know.
as far as we know and can see.
Yeah, and if you can get locations, that's even better. Some of them are just mother, father, sister, brother, but then you look on the main monument and you can figure out who's who. That would be a kind of an interesting thing to do to better map our cemeteries as to who's there. And if we just make a 3-ring binder, 1 page for each plot, and you got a little map of it.
Yeah.
And we can use that in the future as people are buried. Just go to that book and mark down who's in this plot now.
I want to say on record that doing these kinds of records by hand and not just having a digital version is really important.
Oh, it is.
because the tech dies and
It does, and also takes
visual records stay with
somebody to be
it.
a little dyslexic and type something in different, and the database throws you so far off.
Yeah,
So,
forever. So
yep,
I really do think that it's well worth the time to do this stuff by hand.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
I mean, I love the radar mapping and stuff. That's pretty nicely high tech, but
yeah, yeah. It is,
it
as long
doesn't
as you
mean
can,
our record keeping has to be.
right. Yeah, and it's nice to have it both electronic and in paper
Yeah,
because, you know, like I say, electronic can go bad. You can have, unless you got it stored in a bunch of places on different hard drives, God forsake the building burns down, everything goes with it.
down, yeah.
It's nice to have backup in other places. So, yeah.
Do we have more stuff on the agenda?
Nope, nope, that was the last of it.
Well,
Okay, so
Other than setting the date for the next meeting.
January, are we staying on Tuesdays next year? I mean, on Wednesdays? I'm happy with this time, but I could
Yeah,
be.
it works out good for me. Susan, it work out good for you, third
yeah,
Wednesdays?
yeah,
Okay. All right,
uh,
so let's
January
see.
15th, I think.
Be
January 15th,
January 18th, yeah.
18th. See you guys then.
15th,
Okay.
15th,
Huh?
the
15th.
15th.
15th, yeah, sorry.
Nope.
Glasses are a little dirty. January 15th. Yep.
I'm gonna have to bite the bullet and get my 2025 calendar. I just have been reluctant. I'm very
Yeah.
reluctant this year to
Luckily, the phone doesn't care what year it is. You can keep scrolling and it keeps going.
it does, it has a way.
I don't think I have any 2025 calendars myself yet. So,
I don't have my, well, yeah, I have hanging in, I do have some that hang in the kitchen. So Walter, we got that memo from Gabe that she's going to increase the amount of Zoom space.
yes, I filled out my questionnaire and submitted that today too. I talked to her about that. I was talking with Gabe yesterday for a while, and yes, so basically, yeah, they're going to have a commercial account that has at least 10 licenses. So, we won't have to pull it out of our own. Matter of fact, they don't want us to because they're getting a good deal with buying the thing with 10 licenses. And yes, there's a whole bunch more than that of groups and all that. But I think she's looking at when people meet and all that, so people can share accounts and, have a lot. Right now it's 2 accounts. And I think we have our own and the library has their own and maybe somebody else does. But in this case, they'll have, 10 licenses. And there was something about, and I don't quote me on this, but there was something about that they were going to be purchasing another thing through Zoom that works with, and this is possible, I may have misunderstood this, putting the meeting recordings right up on YouTube. So we don't have to necessarily download them and give them to Grace and Grace put them up on there. I think there's something that's going to do that.
That
I'm not
automate,
sure. I'm not sure. But
this is all
But
good.
it sounded pretty good, and then we won't have to worry about, buying our own accounts. It'll all be on the town. And all our passwords and all that should be seamless in getting in.
Good, good.
And you
Okay.
guys, I don't know if you guys know the password, but it's the same as our email password.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
And if you're not sure of that, after I stop recording, I'll let you know.
Okay.
Because we don't want to let everybody know what our password is. All right, so
Excellent security
next
measures.
meeting, January 15th, 2025
See you
Wow.
then.
at 6 p.m.
Here we are in the future.
Yep. All right, if there's nothing else, I'll take a motion for adjournment.
I'll second that.
Okay. We'll do the roll call vote. We'll switch it up. Susan first,
Hi.
Dina,
Aye.
and I vote aye also. Thank you very much. And
Delightful as usual.
Yep.
that concludes the meeting. Let me stop the recording.